The untold story of Robin Williams' three children. Robin Williams, a name that evokes laughter, wonder, and now, loss. He was the genie in Aladdin, the beloved teacher in Dead Poets Society, the nanny we never saw coming in Mrs. Doubtfire. But when the curtain fell on August 11th, 2014, the world lost more than a legend. Three children lost their father. This is the untold story of the ones who called him Dad: Zachary, Zelda, and Cody Williams. Not the punchlines, not the characters, but the heart, the legacy that Robin left behind. Robin Williams, the man behind the laughter. Before the fame, before the standing ovations, before the world knew his name, Robin McLaurin Williams was just a quiet boy growing up in Chicago. Born in 1951, Robin was the son of a Ford Motor Company executive and a former model. His family had money, prestige, but not always warmth. He later admitted that his home, though large, often felt empty. His parents were frequently absent, and the silence of a big house became both his companion and his canvas. Robin found comfort in solitude. He played alone for hours in the attic, giving voices to toy soldiers, creating entire universes with nothing but imagination. This was the beginning, the spark that would one day ignite the world. He attended private schools where he was shy and reserved. He wasn't the class clown, at least not yet. But something was stirring underneath, a storm of brilliance, pain, and curiosity. That storm was unleashed when Robin enrolled at Juilliard in the early 1970s. Among America's most promising young actors, he stood out instantly, even in a class that included Christopher Reeve, who would become his lifelong friend. Reeve would later say that Robin was the only person who could make him laugh after his tragic accident, proving the depth of Robin's loyalty. Robin's mind was electric. He could improvise entire characters in seconds, weaving accents, emotions, and absurdity into a tapestry that was always unpredictable. His teachers were in awe, so were his classmates, but behind the rapid-fire humor was something deeper, a longing to be seen, truly seen, not just laughed at. By the late 70s, Mork and Mindy made him a household name. His energy seemed infinite, like lightning in a bottle. America fell in love with the alien who didn't understand humans, not realizing that in some ways Robin didn't either. Then came the films: Good Morning Vietnam, Dead Poets Society, Hook, Mrs. Doubtfire, Patch Adams, Good Will Hunting, which earned him his Oscar. In his acceptance speech, Robin thanked his family, his friends, and the late mentor who believed in him. But more than anything, he reminded the world that humor and humanity could coexist. He said,
"This might be the one time I'm speechless."
And yet, in that moment, his humility spoke volumes. His fame also led to partnerships off-screen. Alongside Billy Crystal and Whoopi Goldberg, Robin co-founded Comic Relief, a charity event that raised millions for homelessness. He hosted more than a dozen telethons over the years, blending comedy with compassion. Robin never made it about himself. He preferred to let the laughter and the lives changed by it speak louder than his name. Off camera, he was known as one of the kindest people in Hollywood. He visited hospitals in secret, dressed as his characters. He paid tuition for students who couldn't afford school. He showed up unannounced at comedy clubs, mentoring younger performers. He made late-night phone calls to friends going through dark times. He was, at his core, a giver. But fame has a cruel cost. Robin battled addiction, cocaine, alcohol, and bouts of deep, crushing depression. He masked it all with jokes, generosity, and work. He said, "I think the saddest people always try their hardest to make people happy because they know what it feels like to feel absolutely worthless." He relapsed. He recovered. He relapsed again. He kept trying. He was human, achingly, beautifully human. But more than being a performer or even a humanitarian, Robin longed to be a father. He once said that the birth of his first son, Zach, changed everything. It grounded him. Suddenly, it wasn't about applause. It was about showing up, not just for a crowd, but for one small, curious face. With each child, Zach, Zelda, Cody, Robin grew quieter, more reflective. He wrote them notes. He gave them silly nicknames. He brought them on set. He tried to be present, even when work pulled him away. He didn't always get it right. Fame isn't gentle on families, but he tried. He truly, deeply tried. And in those moments between filming blockbusters and fighting personal demons, Robin was something far more powerful than a star. He was a father, flawed, funny, fiercely loving. and that, perhaps, was his greatest role of all. Zachary "Zach" Williams. Born in 1983 to Robin and his first wife, Valerie Velarde, Zach was the first to teach Robin what fatherhood really meant. As a child, Zach saw both the magic and the burden of having a world-famous dad. There were moments of laughter that only Robin could bring. Bedtime stories told in 10 different voices, surprise visits to school, and larger-than-life energy. But there were also long stretches where Robin was away, consumed by work or battling his own inner demons. Zach has described those years as complicated, full of love, but also distance. He admired his father's brilliance, but he also saw the weight that came with it. "My dad felt torn between worlds," he once said, "the public world that loved him and the private world that needed him." Zach pursued education with discipline, studying at Columbia University and later working in finance and tech. He held leadership roles at companies like Park Lane Capital and later worked at a private equity firm. For years, he built a successful but quiet career far from Hollywood. But everything changed after Robin's passing. Zach realized that the pain he carried could become his purpose. He began to speak openly about mental health, co-founding organizations like Psychedelic Medicine Coalition and Prepare Your Mind. He partnered with mental health podcasts and advocacy groups, using his voice to fight stigma. He often speaks about his father's struggles not with shame, but with a fierce determination to help others avoid the same fate. In 2020, Zach and his wife Olivia welcomed a son. They named him McLaurin Clement Williams, after Robin's middle name. It was a way of carrying forward the best parts of his father, not the pain, but the love. Through Zach, Robin's legacy of healing and hope continues. Zelda Williams. Zelda Ray Williams, born in 1989, was Robin's only daughter and perhaps the child most in tune with his creative soul. Robin named her after his favorite video game, The Legend of Zelda, a whimsical choice that showed just how playful he was, even in parenthood. Zelda inherited her father's artistic fire. She began acting at a young age, appearing alongside Robin in commercials and eventually taking on roles in projects like House of D and Dead of Summer. She also found success in voice acting, most notably lending her voice to The Legend of Korra, where her performances earned praise for their depth and emotion. But their connection was always deeper than the camera lens. Robin once said that Zelda had the wisdom of someone far older, and she often matched his wit joke for joke. When Robin died, Zelda faced an avalanche of grief, not just personally, but publicly. She briefly left social media after being harassed by strangers who felt entitled to her pain. Yet in time, she returned, determined not to let the cruelty of others define her father's memory. Instead, she built her own voice. Zelda became a writer, director, and outspoken advocate for mental health and LGBTQ+ rights. In 2023, she made her featured directorial debut with Lisa Frankenstein, stepping fully into her own artistry while honoring the creativity she shared with her father. She has also written for television, proving her talent isn't limited to one medium. She once said, "My dad was a light, a blazing, beautiful, complicated light, and I will carry that light with me, always. And in everything Zelda does, that light shines through." Cody Williams. Cody Allen Williams, the youngest of Robin's children, was born in 1991 to Robin and his second wife, Marcia Garces. Unlike his siblings, Cody grew up with a quieter presence, shying away from the spotlight that surrounded his family. From a young age, Cody was fascinated by music and film, but not in front of the camera. He preferred the behind-the-scenes magic, composing, editing, building the pieces that make a story whole. Friends describe him as thoughtful, humble, and deeply private. Cody also had a love for guitar, often spending hours practicing in solitude. Music became a form of meditation, much like comedy had been for his father. While Zelda pursued acting and Zach pursued advocacy, Cody found his peace in the quiet craftsmanship of creation. In 2019, he married his longtime partner, Maria Flores, in San Francisco. The date was chosen intentionally, July 21st, which would have been Robin's 68th birthday. It was a quiet, intimate ceremony, but also a powerful statement. Even in absence, his father was present. Guests described the ceremony as heartfelt, filled with subtle tributes to Robin's humor and warmth. One friend remarked that it felt as though Robin was smiling over the entire day. Today, Cody works in the film and music industry, continuing the family's creative spirit in his own way. Though he avoids the limelight, Those who know him say he embodies the gentleness of his father, a man who carried laughter in his bones but kindness in his heart, the weight of grief and the legacy of love. Robin's death was a shock that reverberated around the world. At first, headlines called it suicide brought on by depression, but later the truth emerged. Robin had been suffering from Lewy body dementia, a devastating and little understood brain disease that causes confusion, paranoia, hallucinations, and rapid cognitive decline. It is often misdiagnosed, and tragically, it had robbed Robin of clarity and peace in his final months. His widow, Susan Schneider Williams, became an outspoken advocate for awareness, ensuring that people understood the real battle Robin had been fighting. She called it the terrorist inside my husband's brain. Since then, the Lewy Body Dementia Association has seen a surge of support, in part because of Robin's story. For his children, the grief was profound, but in their silence, they found purpose. Zach chose advocacy. Zelda chose storytelling. Cody chose quiet legacy. Together, they carry different pieces of their father forward: laughter, resilience, creativity, and above all, love. Their stories are not about fame. They're about survival, about growing up in the shadow of brilliance and finding their own light. A legacy that lives on. Robin Williams gave the world a reason to smile, but for his children, he gave something even more lasting: a lesson in kindness, vulnerability, and the enduring power of love. Zachary, Zelda, Cody, they don't just carry his name, they carry his heart, and through them he lives on, not in punchlines, but in purpose. Robin taught us that laughter can be a shield, but also a bridge, a way to connect, to understand, to heal. His children have taken that lesson into their own lives and into the lives of countless others. As Robin once said, no matter what people tell you, words and ideas can change the world. And through his children, his words, his ideas, and his love still do. Grief never truly ends. It changes. It softens, it deepens, and sometimes it transforms into something beautiful. So if this story touched you, take a moment. Think of someone you love. Call them. Laugh with them. Be present. Because as Robin also reminded us, you're only given a little spark of madness. You mustn't lose it. If you felt something watching this video, let us know. Leave a comment sharing your favorite Robin Williams film, your memories, or just a message of gratitude. Hit subscribe to follow us for more untold stories behind the legends. Click like to support content that honors the people behind the spotlight, and share this video. Someone else might need this moment of reflection, just like you. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next story, because behind every icon, there's always more than meets the eye.